I know it feels like 400 years you've been walking, feeling beat down. Someone has taken advantage of you. Someone has hurt you. Do you believe God still speaks and you can experience him? It may feel like God's silence is God's absence, but let me assure you this is not the case. God's silence is not God's absence. Can you all say that with me? God's silence is not God's absence. One more time. God's silence is not God's absence. We've got to see this. We've got to understand this. We've got to believe this. See, I began this message talking about experiencing God and hearing his voice. But oftentimes we experience silence instead. Times of loneliness, grief, frustration, the only thing we hear is the problem that we're up against, the hurt in our heart, and the peace escapes us. Here are God's people struggling, suffering, stressed for no fault of their own. They're simply in Egypt, and the previous Pharaoh's blessing is gone. And they were in Egypt for 400 years. But this should not be a surprise to them either. Back up. These are the sons of Israel, Jacob, whose dad was Isaac, whose father was Abraham. And God had told Abraham something. Genesis chapter 15. Look at Genesis 15, 13, and 14. Back in the book of Genesis, God speaking to Abraham, listen what's going to happen. Then the Lord said to Abram, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs and will be servants there. And they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. See how God's always active? 400 years prior, he's telling Abram, hey, let me tell you, when Isaac comes and Isaac has a son, Jacob, and then when Jacob's have sons, something's going to happen to them, and they're going to be held captive. They're going to be mistreated for 400 years. But I got a plan. Do you believe God has a plan for you? For your life? I know it feels like 400 years you've been walking, or maybe sitting still, or aching, or feeling beat down. Someone has taken advantage of you. Someone has hurt you. Do you believe God still speaks and you can experience him? It may feel like God's silence is God's absence, but let me assure you this is not the case. Amy Carmichael arrived in India as a missionary in 1895. She would serve there the rest of her life. She was known for rescuing children, especially girls, from being trafficked into Hindu temple prostitution, which was a culturally acceptable practice at the time. Raising and discipling these children in a family-style community, living a simple, sacrificial life. She was often ill, bedridden, and eventually confined to her room for the last 20 years of her life after a fall. She chose to wear the Indian dress, eat the Indian food, and live among the people, modeling incarnational ministry long before it was something that we wrote and talked about or trained people in as they went to the mission field. She wrote over 35 books. One of them is Gold Cord, about her work in India. Another, If, a piercing book about Christ-like love and humility. Another one, The Edges of His Ways, devotional writings. And then a fourth one, Things as They Are, being just absolutely honest about the work and the cultural sins she encountered through the temple prostitution and rescuing. Her writing style was deeply poetic, reflective, and born from seasons of suffering and silence. She wrote from a place of deep connection with God, even when his voice felt distant. Notice what she says about God's silence. Amy Carmichael says, sometimes God withholds his voice so that we might learn to walk by faith, not by feeling. His silence is a gift, not a punishment. Let me say that again. Sometimes when God withholds his voice, he does so that we might learn to walk by faith, not by feeling. His silence is a gift, not a punishment. This quote reflects her theology of suffering and the spiritual formation that happens. She sees silence not as abandonment, but as God's loving invitation to go deeper with him, to develop a deeper trust. If you feel God is silent in your life right now, there's an invitation to you to go deeper. Lord, I'm going to press in. I'm going to draw near. See, when things are quiet, God seems silent and distant and disinterested. Don't quit. He's working behind the scenes in quiet ways. Stay the course. Look again at Genesis chapter 15, verse 14. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. He had already promised, and now he is working that out. He works through our lives. He works through time and space and circumstance. We can trust him.